How did you get to New York City?
Well, my mom is a New Yorker. And so I came to New York unwillingly as a child to visit my grandparents, who are both immigrants and landed in New York at different times, and raised my mom in Ridgewood, Queens. And so we would, I don't know, every couple of years come and hang with them. And New York is a very different place than where I grew up, which is Santa Barbara, California. Which
wow,
is,
really?
Yeah, beautiful
Okay.
beach town,
Yeah.
wonderful place to grow up, but couldn't be more different from New York in every way. And so I think that New York was always a very exciting, dynamic place to be, that even as a kid, I was like, this place is so cool and I want to be here. So, I always had visions of living in New York as an adult as soon as I could. And that looked like a lot of different things in my imagination. There was a time where I wanted to be a pastry chef. And so I thought, I can go to culinary school in New York, or, like all of my dreams kind of led to New York as a kid. And then when I started taking trombone seriously and playing jazz, I realized, New York is a place I can do that too. Great. And so I moved here to go to the new school for college, and got my BFA in jazz trombone performance. Very specific. And and I moved here in 2012. So that's how I moved, was to go to school. But I knew that I wanted to live here more than I cared about going to school, if that makes sense. Like, that was kind of my excuse for moving here.
Your grandparents?
Yeah.
Both immigrants?
Yes.
Do you know their stories?
Yes.
What is that?
Okay, so Oma is my grandmother. She's her name is Maria. She's from Berlin. She moved to New York right before the Berlin Wall went up, and was an au pair for a few years in New Jersey. And then she had been working at the train station in Germany. Like, her family was connected with the train industry. And so she started working for the train stuff happening here in New York, like as a travel agent almost. And then my grandfather has a kind of long, complicated story, but short story is that he moved when he was 10 years old. His parents moved his whole family and landed in Ridgewood. And so they've been there forever, and he grew up there. And then my grandparents met at a German polka dance.
Classic.
On the Upper East Side. And their first date was going to Coney Island after they met at this polka dance. So they've been here forever. And they had my mom. My grandfather's an architect, and my grandmother was a chemist at Rockefeller University. And then my mom is now an architect also.
She escaped. Was she in East Berlin?
Yeah.
And was able to get out before the wall went up?
Yeah, exactly.
Has she told you stories about that time period?
Yeah, a little bit.
What do you know?
Well, she was between jobs. So because she was between jobs, they weren't tracking her. It almost looked like she had like a week off between two things. And so she bought a ticket in that time, and her family played dumb. They like pretended that she had gone missing. And in that time she had a brother or a cousin, I don't remember. Someone was already in the States and kind of sponsored her to come. So it was a very dramatic leaving.
And you were born in Santa Barbara. Are you,
born in LA, lived in Berkeley, California for a few years, and then moved to Santa Barbara when I was 5. So that was really where I grew up. Yeah.
Your musical inclinations, is that really where they started back in, I'm assuming in California? Did you always have an impulse to try music, to be involved in bands? What do you remember from like the genesis story, the origin story of your interest in music generally?
Well, I played piano when I was a very little kid, maybe from 5 to 8, because my mom was forced to take piano lessons, so she thought that's a nice family tradition to keep that going.
Keep the torture
Let me
going.
traumatize my children also. So she signed us up for piano lessons, and I did that for 3 years and hated every second of it, which I think she kind of expected. Like, it was like a character building thing. Was not fun, had a horrible teacher, not a good time. So I felt like I was a pretty musical kid. Like, I loved to sing and dance, and my other grandmother, my dad's mom, is a great piano player. So, like, I just loved being goofy and singing songs as a kid. Piano was a total disaster. And then when I was 10, my my elementary school that I was in had a band program, and 2 of my best friends were in that the year before and played alto saxophone and clarinet. And I just wanted to hang out with them.
Yeah.
Like, my parents were very structured academic people that didn't give me a lot of like free time to hang out with friends. So it was kind of my excuse to be in band was to just hang out with them, because it was like a, sanctioned activity. And so I joined band, and they needed a trombone player. They didn't have a trombone player. So that's why I picked it. I was also kind of a tomboy, like, it's big and kind of clunky, and I liked that. Like, flute wouldn't have suited me. And so, I picked up the trombone, and I didn't care about it at all. I mean, it was really an excuse for me to hang out with my friends. And so that was how I got into it. And my mom noticed that I was just enjoying it. And because piano had gone so badly, she didn't offer anything. She's like, let's just see where this goes. She told me later all this, like, let's just see where this goes. I'm not going to force her to practice. Like, she sounds horrible. She'll just do her thing with this thing. And then going into middle school, I got a private teacher for the first time. This guy named Bryce Craig. He was awesome. He went to the college in town, and he made me a disc, like a burned CD disc of J.J. Johnson, who is this incredible trombone player, kind of master of jazz trombone. And hearing those records was very life-changing for me. Like, that was definitely a light switch moment, I think, as a young kid. I think I was 12 at that point, because I didn't sound anything like that. I sounded awful. And J.J. Johnson just had this gorgeous tone and rhythm, and everything was just so beautiful. And I thought, oh, wow, it can sound like this, right? Like, I didn't really have an example of that up until then. So that was very inspiring. And then, it's just been it's gone from there.
The resonance with J.J. Johnson.
Yeah.
Was that immediate to the point where you were inspired to get better? How do you make sense of how that moment, which you just said is a big one in your life?
Yeah.
What do you think it was about that moment that was so affecting?
It was a blueprint, I think. I didn't have any example. I was the only trombone player in this elementary school band, right? So I sounded awful, and that was all I knew, right? Like, I didn't know any other trombone players. I hadn't heard great trombone playing. Maybe I had heard some horn section stuff, like on record, on the radio, but I just didn't have any reference for what could this thing be. And hearing JJ was like, oh, that's what this thing could sound like. Like, any brass instrument, it takes a while for it to sound okay. It's very unlike other instruments. Like, the physicality of it just takes a while to settle in. It's like you're negotiating between your air and your face muscles and your body position. It's like very involved. And so I just didn't know that it could sound so good on a very kind of basic level. And so that was very exciting to hear.
A bit of a North Star for where you might be trying to get to.
Yeah. Or just an option.
No.
Like, oh, this could sound like that. Like, let me work hard so I can get there.
What did you start to do to try to improve? I don't know if you remember the changes in habits or energy that you applied, but what did you do to try to get better?
I just practiced a lot. Practiced a lot. I think my main intention, just like I only started playing trombone because I wanted to hang out with my friends. I think that the social aspect of music was like the thing that kind of kept me with it. And so I just wanted to play as much as possible with other people, because that would lead me to hang out in the way that I wanted. So I realized pretty quickly that if, like, I sounded better, I would be able to play more with other people, and then I could hang out. So it was all very, like, socially driven in my mind. And then, like, if that was number one, then the music, like, falling in love with music was the next step of, oh, this is actually something really, really special. And we're able to, like, change this environment when we play. And I liked that experience as a kid. And so that was very motivating.
When did the falling in love happen?
For real, once I got to New York.
Really?
Yes. Which is crazy, because I made a crazy move from California to New York when I was 18. Kind of like, well, we'll see how this goes. Like, I wasn't I must play music or I'll die. Like I sometimes don't even feel that way now. But being in New York, the moment I really fell in love with this music, with jazz specifically, was being here and hearing the masters, like going and hearing Roy Hargrove, going and hearing like all of my heroes that I kind of grew up listening to once I was more in it. And being around that, and also being shown that swing music was dance music, and it was something to be partied to, was not my experience in high school. My experience of swing music was like playing at the Elks Lodge for 80-year-olds, you know, which was lovely, but it didn't feel current or relevant in the same way that it was presented to me in New York as like, this is music to dance to at 4 a.m. a little bit drunk. And it feels so good. And the way that New Yorkers play jazz is just different than how Californians play jazz, because the history is here. And so there's this like urgency and vocabulary here that I think it kind of blew my mind. And that was when I fell in love. And that was when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do.
I'd love to take a moment and talk about whatever history you know about the New York jazz scene. You can take as much time as you would like to share whatever you know about the role of jazz in the history of New York. But I'd be fascinated to know what you know about that.
Oh gosh, it's a big topic.
Yeah.
Where do I start? Okay, here's where I'll start. So jazz is Black music at its very core. So in New York, what that looked like was coming out of the Great Migration of the movement of Black people post-slavery to the North. People were, finding new homes in places like Chicago and Detroit and New York, and these northern cities where life wasn't perfect, but it was better than staying in the South. And with that, they brought their music that had been developed in New Orleans. And there's so much history that goes into that, right? Like there's indigenous people and Creole people and Caribbean, like people from all over the place, because New Orleans is a port city, right? So there's just a lot happening there. It's a big melting pot. And New York is very similar in that way. Like we talk about New York as such a melting pot. So fast forward, I'll try to give you the spark notes. And, I hope I'm being accurate. That's my goal. I'll do it the best I can. So, Black folks have a community in Harlem. And so when we think about like the Harlem Renaissance, that was an explosion of art in all forms: music, dance, plays, science, writing, you name it, that was happening in Harlem almost as a response to what was happening in the world of like, we are here and we have, if Black people prior were mostly seen as enslaved people, the Harlem Renaissance was a real a statement of we're here and we're full people that make art, that appreciate art, that have so much more to contribute to society than slavery or just work. And so the Harlem Renaissance is like a beautiful time of creation. And with that comes so much jazz music. So when we think about people like Duke Ellington, like Fats Waller, Count Basie, there was like a huge dance scene also in Harlem. So if you think of like the Savoy Ballroom, that was a really amazing club. It took up a whole city block in Harlem. And it was one of the only integrated dance ballrooms. So no matter what color you were, you could go there. And they would have like a house band on one side of the room. It was like a huge dance hall, a house band on the other side, and then a traveling band that was coming from out of town on the other, and they would just go back and forth. So it was like nonstop music all night. So one band would stop and the other one, and they would kind of battle. Anyway, so there's like a whole tradition of Lindy Hop dancing, swing dancing, that comes out of that. So that's like a little piece of something. There's so much history. People have written countless books on it. So I don't want to, that's like the very, very, very basic little piece of like Harlem history.
Would it be fair to say in your mind that the epicenter of jazz in the United States is New York City?
Yes.
No doubt about it?
No doubt about it. In New Orleans.
Those two places.
I think at this point it's more New York than it is New Orleans.
Okay.
For the thing that we consider jazz now.
Okay.
Like in New Orleans, that's the city of brass bands and like that style of music. But if we think of like jazz as we think of it now, it's New York.
What is the difference between contemporary jazz and the brass band jazz of the past?
Well, the instrumentation is different. The harmony can often be different. It's one in this, I mean, in terms of like it being rooted in the blues, it being rooted in the Black experience. Those are both true. But the instrumentation, like you can hear the difference between, let's say, I'm just trying to think of an example. Like if you listen to a brass band from New Orleans, it's a certain style of music. We should just play like comparison. It's like if you heard like When the Saints Go Marching In, for example, can you imagine that?
Sure.
So you've got like a tuba player playing the bass line, you've got percussion and drums playing the rhythm, and then traditionally it's like there's a trumpet player and a trombone player and then like some sort of saxophone, and they're all doing their thing, and there's a specific role that each of those instruments has. Now that's the same when we think about swing music. Traditionally in swing music, it's like a drum set, piano, upright bass, sometimes a guitar, and then some smattering of horns and vocalists. And each person has their role in that as well. So it's kind of it's just a different instrumentation.
I want to get back to you coming to New York.
Yeah, sure.
The decision to actually move your life to, I know you were mentioning that you went to the new school. I'd love to hear the story about how you made that decision to come to New York and what you came here to do. If you had a pretty clear sense of what you were hoping to accomplish with your education.
Yeah. So I got into a bunch of schools for jazz. And that's what I was interested in studying because that was like the thing that I cared about the most at the end of high school.
Despite not yet really falling in love, fallen in love with it, this was kind of your thing at this point by the end of high school.
It was the thing that I felt the most passionate about, even though it wasn't like I didn't have any examples of full-time musicians in my life at that time in high school. Like my dad's an astrophysicist, my mom's an architect. Like, I don't know, none of my friends' parents were full-time musicians. Of course, I had music teachers who had dedicated themselves, but they were like teachers in an institution, right?
Yeah.
So like being a freelance musician was like not something I kind of understood.
Yeah.
So, but I thought, okay, let me try this thing, and like maybe it won't work. I remember moving and being like, we'll just see how this goes. So, which is crazy. So got into all these schools, but new school was the only one that I had applied to that was in New York. And being in New York was just so important to me. So I said, that's where I'm going. And I moved here, and I remember thinking, I'm going to be in New York at some point. Like this move will happen at some point. Let me get it over with now.
Yeah.
Like, let me get my ass kicked now rather than later. Like, let me just get into it. And that was my perspective. And I remember my parents said, oh, can you do a double degree? Can you like have something else you do also?
A fallback.
Yeah, a fallback plan. And I was just like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, okay. And they were pretty much like, show us you get good grades and we'll keep this thing going. So I moved to New York and just was in it. I mean, I was going to class and going to jam sessions and playing as much as possible and learning as much as possible. And but it was also, I was 18 living in New York. Like, it's kind of crazy. So, I spent my life savings in 2 months on I don't even know what. And I just had a blast.
At that point, you are already thinking like freelance long term. The goal is to be a freelance musician. Did you have a pretty clear sense of what you wanted to do when this was over?
No, because I actually hadn't even seen what the options were yet. Like I knew that I liked playing music. I knew that I liked playing trombone. But I actually didn't know what it could look like. now, because I've experienced a lot of things and tried a bunch of different stuff, I can actually I have a better perspective on it. But at that time, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into in a lot of ways. Sorry.
It's okay. You were saying that you wanted to getting your ass kicked over as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I don't know if that actually came to fruition, but like when you say you wanted to get your ass kicked intentionally, what do you mean by that? What did you want to get over?
Or maybe I wanted to, maybe I didn't want to stop getting my ass kicked ever. I just wanted to start.
Okay. Yeah.
If that makes sense. I was like, I know that this place will challenge me in a certain way, or just not this place, but being around the best musicians in the world will be the thing that pushes me forward, that I will learn the most and have in my mind at that time. It was like, this is the biggest opportunity for mentorship possible. Right. So I'd like to experience that as soon as possible so that I don't delay my growth.
All right. So you were saying you wanted to get around the best in the world to challenge you to grow. Did that prove to be true?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Very quickly. And I feel very fortunate that I got to be around a lot of incredibly musicians, both at the New School and the faculty, but that also I was just kind of around in New York, or I lived here now, so I could go and hear them. I could talk to them. And I just had these opportunities to have conversations and be in playing situations too, where just the very act of playing next to somebody, you're going to learn something from them because they're playing in a certain way. It just, I continued to be a sponge. And it's like this osmosis, I think, that happens from being around incredible musicians.
When I was talking to Wayne a couple months ago, and one of the things I will always remember from that conversation is him talking about the physicality of playing brass instruments and playing the trumpet. And I've since, as I mentioned you before we started recording, I've seen him play. Yeah. And the amount of noise that man can make with that instrument is truly incredible. Yeah. And I'm a complete novice to this, but I'd love to I'd love to hear from you about what is important to know, learn from you what's important to know about the physicality of playing the trombone, which I know nothing about. What is required to be able to take this massive object and play the hell out of it?
Well, from a very technical standpoint, you need a lot of breath because that's your equivalent of electricity. If you're thinking about maybe a guitar amp, right? Yeah. That's where your power is coming from. We don't have electricity. So our power comes from our air. So a big part of playing trombone is just managing your air well. We also have this slide. So there's no buttons, which is so cool. It's the thing that I think mystifies young trombone players the most when they first start, because they're like, well, how do I know? There's no slot as you go along the slide. Yeah. So it becomes this incredibly intuitive thing, just like the voice, where we don't have slots on our vocal cords. We can analogy. Go whoop, and I can go whoop on trombone. And so it's, when we think about producing a sound on the trombone or playing a particular note, you're thinking about, do I have enough air? Where is the position of the slide? There are 7 positions, even though they're not slotted. There is a system for thinking about that. So is my slide in the right position? And then am I blowing the air either faster or slower to produce a note that's higher or lower? Those are the 3 things. So you're kind of lining up your arm position with your lip position, with the frequency of air that you're blowing, and hoping for the best.
And when you started playing this more seriously, even before you got to New York, did you notice that you had a bit of a natural aptitude by default to be able to either understand the instrument, or you had physical advantages that may have helped you?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any... it's not required to have a big body to play this thing. I think lung capacity can be trained. So because I've been playing since I was 10 years old, I've kind of figured that out. And it's gotten better over the years as I've studied with different teachers who have taught me how to breathe properly, or how to how to use it properly. And so that's something that develops over time. But I don't think I have a God sent calling to play trombone. I mean, maybe now I feel that way a little bit more. Like I love it. I'm so happy that I get to do this, and that this is how I get to spend my days every day. I mean, what a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But I think anyone can play trombone. It's just a matter of, especially with brass, it's just some like hours. You know, it's like people talk about 10,000 hours to master something. I think it's the same for any instrument. I think with brass, there is a barrier to entry because it doesn't sound good right away. Just from the physicality of literally you like training your face muscles. So that doesn't happen right away. Like usually when people pick up a trombone or any brass instrument, it's going to sound awful until you kind of, I remember a point where like my tone just like switched and then all of a sudden it was clear. And I was so happy. But it was like 3 years later. I mean, and I wasn't practicing a lot when I was a kid because again, I was just trying to hang out. But
it was obvious to you in your ear. You could hear that.
Yeah,
that improvement.
It went from like to I was like, wow, this is cool. Yeah.
At this point, outside of just practicing and playing a lot, are there physical exercises or physical training that you go through to try to, turn yourself as you are into a professional? Is there anything extra that you do, either to try to get your lung capacity to improve or anything else to help?
Not in particular. I have found that, it's a good question. Well, I've gone to physical therapy because I've messed myself up from playing trombone.
Is it heavy?
It's not the heaviest thing, but it's clunky.
How did you mess yourself up? What happened?
Yeah, it's a very like not ergonomic instrument. So if you can imagine like your left hand is holding this thing, that's not that heavy. It's like 5 pounds. It's holding this thing, and then your right hand is completely unsupported, like wiggling a slide around. So it's like I have some imbalances in my shoulders from having 2 different jobs of my different arms, if that makes sense. So I've done some work to balance things out. Also, I did not play with good posture when I was a kid, or even like till a few years ago. And so if you can imagine like the torque of your head. So I'm going to get kind of physical therapy nerd for a second. So your head weighs about like 10 pounds-ish for most people. And that's it, and your body feels that as 10 pounds if it's balanced properly over your body. However, if you lean it forward, the torque of that makes your head feel like 40 pounds. So I've had to do a lot of work and it's very satisfying to play scrunched over. It like really feels like you're like doing something, like you're really putting in the work.
Playing the hell out of it.
Yeah. And it's very satisfying. And so I've gotten into a bad habit of playing very scrunched over. And in the past few years, actually from my neurologist for migraines, they've said you really have to straighten out. So I went to physical therapy to like get my neck more in alignment, strengthen my shoulders so that I'm not relying so much on my neck, that I can like dump the weight into my shoulders. So, I mean, again, like this is not special training. It's more like damage control. But I have found that like, I mean, being a healthy person, I mean, if like I don't smoke, for example, anything because I really need my lungs, but there are so many brass players that smoke all sorts of stuff and they're fine. So, I mean, I don't think that it really, I think you can get as nerdy as you want with it, but it's not required. I think you'll always find a way. Like if you want to play an instrument and you need to get that sound out, like no matter what, you'll find a way.
I'd love to go back to the moment or the moments where you fell in love with this. And you said that was after you moved to New York and started, as I remember, getting more exposed to the scene, being around people who are truly excellent about this. I'd love for you to share in whatever detail you would like what exactly happened. If it was just simply hearing the beautiful jazz being played in a more beautiful way than you thought was possible, being inspired by really talented musicians, like what exactly happened?
So when I was in school, I was dating a bass player that went to Juilliard and I was at New School, and he was amazing. He was a beautiful bass player. And because I was involved with him, he was involved with playing at Dizzy's at Jazz at Lincoln Center, which is this club. at Columbus Circle, and they had these late night jam sessions where, and it was hosted by this guy who was this like larger than life personality, and he knew so much about music. He was like an encyclopedia, and they hosted these sessions every Thursday and Saturday where anyone could show up and play. But the house bands, like who were hired to be there, were just excellent. And it was like all young people playing swing music at a really, really high level. And the guy that was organizing it like really curated these musical moments. And that was a very formative experience for me, was just being in that room, like, because they sounded so good. I couldn't really play that well at that point. I mean, comparatively to now, like I could barely hold on and like play a blues, like I wasn't some great improviser at that point, but being around it and having so much like response from the audience and the way that everyone played. And so when I would play and finally gather the balls to get on that stage, you felt like you were like flying. It was just the best. So that was very inspiring. And then that whole crew would like go to someone's apartment after the club shut down, and we would like listen to records and dance and like hang out until the sun came up. And so that was just a few very formative years in school while that was happening. That was just like, oh, this is what it's about. Like, it's about hanging out with people, creating this music. I just remember listening to Ben Webster records and I just couldn't believe how beautiful they were. And so it was just it's like when you've just listened to some of your favorite music ever and you discover something, like it's just fireworks. It's just the best. And so that was kind of the beginning of me really falling in love with it and being around these people who were just playing on such a high level, but also like we were hanging out and doing it together. And
it made you want to be better?
Yeah.
Fundamentally.
Yes.
I mean, that was sort of the ignition of moving you into that direction.
Well, I didn't want to suck.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't be able to do it. Right? Like there's a thing, or I just wanted to keep learning. But it really came not from a source of shame, but a realization that the better I was at this thing would lead me to to have more opportunities to make more beautiful music with other people, And I the way I think about it now is that this is a service job. Being an artist, being a musician is a service job, and that the better you are at your craft, the better you're able to serve the audience, the people you're in a band with, the people that you're creating with, and the world ultimately, right? And so it was very motivating to get better because it just meant that I could like hang on for dear life a little bit better.
And this, I think, is why people move to places like New York, is to have in whatever lane people have their inclinations or their interests. Yeah. It's to get in rooms like the one you just described. I mean, I don't know if you agree with this, but like to basically, you use the word to get your ass kicked earlier, but it's like a crucible. It's a healthy crucible in many ways for people to basically grow and get better. I don't know if you agree with that general view, but
absolutely.
Yeah. So you graduate from the new school, I assume.
Yep.
Did you have a sense at that point of what you wanted to do? What story were you telling your parents who had wanted you to find a second major?
Well, I had started teaching at a nonprofit organization in the Bronx. So I was teaching after school trombone lessons to students who didn't otherwise have a music program in their schools. So I started that. In school, I had already started gigging some. And playing with different bands and getting hired for this, that, and the other. And that was really wonderful. And I had so much fun playing music. So when I finished school, it was like, okay, let me keep this teaching thing going because I need some money. I need to pay rent. And I'm going to keep gigging as much as I can. And I didn't really know it at the time. Again, like I just kind of did whatever was kind of in front of me. But I just said yes to like every gig that came my way. I was just so excited to play. And I took so much teaching work at all sorts of different situations. And so I could support myself living in New York. And that was just the dream. Like I just wanted to be playing and teaching and just have the horn on my face as much as possible. Like that was my only goal. And I was able to support myself. So no one was really asking questions because I wasn't calling home saying, hey, can you send me money?
I don't know how clearly you remember these gigs, but When you mean you were 22 or 23 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, you're young.
21 even.
21.
Yeah.
Do you remember like the gigs you're getting offered your way? I mean, you're basically eating what you kill. Like the money you're getting is dependent upon one-off opportunities that you're saying yes to. Is this like $100 a gig? Like, I'd love to hear if you remember what the financial component of this looked like.
Yeah. I mean, it's gotten a lot better over the years, thank God. Yeah. Well, for me, and I hope for everybody, but I don't know. I can only speak to my own experience. But for example, when some of my first gigs in New York were playing with a big band at a swing dance club. And I don't think anyone in the band was under 70 except me. Mm. And I got called for it. Like there was a trombone player who heard me I don't know how he heard me because I wasn't playing anywhere, but whatever. Somehow I was on the sub list for this gig, and it was a 3-hour long gig, and it paid $10 and a plate of pasta and a drink. So that was the pay. And this was when I was still in school, and they had like so many charts. And there was like classic big band music. So there must have been over 300 charts, and they'd have like a red folder and a yellow folder and a blue folder. And they'd say like blue 42, and you'd have to pull up a chart and just read it. And they'd say red 100, you did that. And so talk about like getting my ass kicked. Like I didn't know how to sight read. I was in school. I hadn't been in that position before of just being in a big band, playing for an audience of people that were dancing, which was super cool. And just being like, well, here goes, right? Like they just say blue 42 and they say 1, 2, and you just read. And so that was like where I learned how to sight read. I still credit that gig for like getting, like I'm a really good sight reader now, I think because of that gig. And so I did that gig for a few years because I just knew that like I wasn't going to learn that skill anywhere else in such a low stakes environment, where we weren't getting really paid anything. So if I made some mistakes,
what are they going to do?
What are they going to do?
Not give you pasta.
Exactly. So, like I was doing gigs like that. What else was I doing? Oh God. I mean, I was playing in rock bands. I was playing in like little pop bands, like indie stuff. I would play, sometimes I would get like a more illustrious gig, and that was really exciting. But no, I just said yes to everything. Like anything that people need, like horn section stuff for like a singer or you name it. I was doing it, and I just said yes to everything because I just wanted to play. Yeah. And I didn't have a sense. I was just excited to play, and I just wanted to make as much music as possible. And it was just exciting to be doing the thing, even if the thing wasn't paying all that well. But sometimes it was, like it wasn't all nothing. It wasn't all $10 gigs. Yeah. That was probably the worst.
It was paying in some other way, basically.
Yeah. Or maybe literally money. Like sometimes it was $100. Sometimes it was $300. Sometimes it was $50, and each situation was different and required a different skill set. And so you're just you're just learning. It was awesome. And then the teaching was the thing that kind of like paid the bills.
You used the word balls earlier.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of life is about having balls when you need it. I
agree.
What do you think gave you the courage when you were in a room with people who, as you told the story earlier, who you really thought were amazing and probably better than you were?
Yeah.
How do you make sense of how you were able to push yourself to a relatively high risk of failure, but like also big upside?
Totally. I think I've often had more balls than I've like should be, than I should be allowed to. Like, I don't think I've always had like equal parts balls and like information or skill. Like, and I think that's like,
it's an important quality.
Sometimes, I sometimes question that, but like, I think I've often had more confidence than like ability. And that the confidence kind of came first. And I'm not saying that it was that I wasn't nervous. Like my heart would be pounding out of my chest, but I would just think like, you're here, you want to play this music. And I think when the music is so good, you can't help but want to be a part of it. I think it's just a very natural thing. And so just sitting on the sidelines wasn't really going to suit me because it's too exciting. Like you just want to get in there. And I've always had that feeling. Like anytime I see something cool happening, I'm like, I want to be a part of it in some small way. So I think, I've the balls have always been a big part of my journey, is like just getting in there. And I've found that I actually have, I think it's easy to do is to think that you're worse than you are, you know?
True.
So even if I'm thinking, oh, you don't know anything, or like, here goes nothing, whatever. I found that in moments I actually would deliver and then refine, and then, and it's just this kind of back and forth of bravery, and then figuring out what you did, bravery, and then figuring out what you did. Like, how can you make that better? Or, you go back to the drawing board and say, okay, that was good, but that wasn't. But that, like, the bravery, I think, has to come first. At least in my experience, that's been true.
I don't know how much you thought about this, but to me, this is such a crucial part of living a life that is in alignment for people with what they want to be doing, and being able in those moments to actually get over your imposter syndrome and go for it, even if you're scared. I don't know how deeply you've thought about this, but I'd love to get any advice or thoughts you may have on, even for yourself, how you've been able in those moments to go do the thing, even if you're scared.
Yeah, it's a good question. I've thought a lot about imposter syndrome because I think it's been a big through line in my life. But I think what ends up happening is that I just ask a lot of questions, and that opens up conversations and opportunities to connect with people that, because I'm genuinely curious, like, how does this thing work? Because, like, I don't understand it, or you're doing this thing that's really special that, like, I want to know more about. What was your question?
Well, just because I think those, like, what you do in those moments really matters so much. What advice you would give, or what thoughts you have on how you've been able to, push yourself a little bit, or go do the thing when necessary.
I think it comes from, like, in the moment, not overthinking it, and having, I think at this point, I know what value I bring to situations. And that's taken me a while to figure that out. Like, that didn't come very early on. But you get feedback from people over the years, right? Like, hey, it's so beautiful when you do that thing. Or they compliment a certain thing about the thing you do. And so I think very slowly you just realize that, like, even if I don't know everything, and there's certain parts that I'm improving, or that I'd like to improve, or that, like, I haven't quite figured out yet, I bring value to this situation in some sort of fundamental way. And I know I can deliver on this one thing. And that gets me just, like, in the door. And I also think that, like, being a really nice person has helped get me in the door. Like, I think it's the combination of being an excellent musician, but also being, like, a nice person to be around. Yeah.
It's amazing how much you can diffuse a situation by staying curious, rather than getting defensive. In my experience,
like, I actually, like, I don't feel qualified to get defensive. Like, I don't have the right. Because I'm learning so much. Like, what do I know? Like, I'd rather ask him some questions, or if someone has something to say, like, I'm just curious. Like, okay, how does that work? Because I don't feel like I have the right, for better or for worse.
As your actual freelance career began to grow, I don't know if you ever moved out of New York, but
no, I've lived here the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, it's been years now, right?
Yeah,
that you've been
13
here.
years.
So,
crazy.
As a freelancer, I'd love to hear about the growth in opportunities that have led from you being a 21, 22-year-old starting out to now, and what has really helped grow those for you that might be helpful to anyone who stumbles upon this or listens to this conversation and strategically trying to become what they want to be.
I think there's some strategy involved, and then I also think that, like, you just kind of keep showing up. So I think both things are true. I've been really, really good at continuing to show up. I don't know if I have, like, a strategy.
Well, that's a strategy.
I'm trying. Well, yeah, for sure. But I think when I'm very fortunate to get a lot of side person work, which is when people hire me for their bands. And so that keeps me very busy. in my day to day because I'm playing a lot. It takes more strategy, I think, to be a band leader, which is the thing that I love the most and that I'm the most passionate about. Yeah. So
what is that exactly?
A band leader?
Yeah.
When I have a band and I'm getting my own gigs and like my name is like, I'm the boss.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and those are my favorite situations because I get to hire the people I want to play with. We get to play music I write or arrange. And it's like all in it's my choice.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite because I have the most control. But I also love being a side person. And I think they both really inform each other, like how you show up in these different situations. So for the side person stuff, I mean, in terms of strategy, it's just like, how can you be the most excellent musician you can be, show up and be prepared, and just know your stuff and be a pleasant person to work with who's on time and, and play your ass off. I think like that's it, in terms of getting work as a musician in New York in other people's bands. For band leading, it's like a lot of like emailing and all this like businessy stuff, a lot of connections, like talking to people, and saying, oh, this is like, let's say I'm at a venue with someone else's band and I get a chance to talk to the person who runs the place. Like, oh, this is so cool. Like I have a band, maybe we can do something. What's your contact information? It's like a lot of, just making connections with people that way. And then of course, in the same way, like always playing your ass off and being a great person to the people you hire, right? Like in that situation, you're the boss. So I really take that seriously and want to do a very good job of treating my band well. So that comes with like, I don't know, there's like money negotiations and all sorts of stuff that goes into that. It's a lot of organization and a lot of like office work, which is not my favorite thing. But it leads me to do the thing that is my favorite. So I've kind of had to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Of the opportunities that are available to freelancing musicians in New York, which are the ones that are most financially lucrative that can really help pay the bills to, free up someone's time to do more work that they may care a bit more about than a corporate event, for example? Like what are the shows that really help pay the bills?
Well, sometimes it's corporate events.
Yeah.
So I work weddings on Saturdays often. Are they my favorite gigs? No. But they pay very well and require relatively little of my time. And it has been the thing that's like helped me fund making albums and fund other things or have like a relatively high quality of life. And during the week, if my other gigs don't pay as well, it kind of all comes out in the wash. So each gig is like, different situations pay differently. Like performing arts centers, there's a certain expectation of what that's going to pay. Jazz clubs are going to be a different expectation. If you're playing a corporate event, that's going to be a different thing. If you're, like depending on what you're doing, there's kind of and I've just learned this over the years of like, what's the expectation for each situation. So like jazz clubs don't pay much, but they're really fun to play. And like, that's really important to me. So it all kind of balances out. And I'm of the opinion that I'd rather play and not have a side job than be pickier and have to do something else for work in addition to playing music. So I'm very comfortable taking work that maybe I don't love one day a week to play a wedding, which I don't even hate it. Like I don't mind it. I always find something enjoyable about it. Like I'm playing in a horn section. They're my friends. Like it's not a painful experience to me. But that really has like helped kind of keep everything balanced. Teaching can be helpful in that way too. I mean, when I was right out of school, I was doing a lot of teaching because that was really paying the bills. And I think over time, I've been able to get pickier about what I do, and the things that I love are also paying very well. So that's been a steady burn,
If you're comfortable sharing, a corporate opportunity or a wedding opportunity, like, you're there for a few hours.
4-hour gig.
4-hour gig.
Yeah, you got to get there an hour before.
And what does like a rough range look like for, relatively lucrative opportunities like a high-end wedding or a corporate event?
Yeah,
look like?
So like for a horn player, and it's different based on what instrument you play, but for like a trombone player, my base rate is like $650 for the night.
Okay.
But then if I'm traveling, it'll go to like let's say it's a 2-hour drive away, that'll be $1,000, $1,200. So that's pretty good for a night,
And those opportunities, like the other opportunities you have been given, are often the result of this compounded effort of many years of being in the scene, knowing people, having good relationships, and being trusted to be reliable to show up. Is that about right, or is it something else too?
No, that's it.
And basically at this point, are you doing any outbound like lead generation, or this is sort of like coming in from existing relationships primarily?
For the corporate stuff?
For everything.
Oh, for everything? It's both. So as a leader, as a band leader, I do a lot of outbound. Does that mean like I'm reaching out?
Yes.
Yeah. This is new vocabulary.
Yes,
okay.
right.
So yes, I do a lot of reaching out because it won't happen if I don't. However, I say that as many things as I want to have happen won't happen if I don't do that. If I just sit back and didn't do anything to kind of promote myself, I would get some amount of leader gigs because people have like seen me do that. And so they'll hire me for that. Will that be like a consistent thing? Probably not. So I had an aha moment a few years ago where I realized that all of the leader work that I had gotten, I hadn't done anything for. Which was beautiful. I was like, wow, people want me to do this. And I haven't lifted a finger. I mean, of course, I lifted a finger to make it all happen, but I didn't reach out to anybody. And I had this realization of like, oh my gosh, if I want this to be more of the gigs I do, I really need to pick this up, And so that's been really helpful. Just like kind of, it sounds so obvious and kind of stupid saying it, but it's just like, okay, no one cares about this more than I do. Like if I want this to happen, I really need to make this happen. So it's just like a lot of emailing or having other opportunities and then seeing what you can kind of tack on to that, making records. It's all this kind of cumulative stuff, getting recommended for things by other people, then showing up and doing a great job. It's just, everything kind of compounds.
And at this point, it's enough to live on. I mean, it's enough.
As a band leader, no, but
all
totally.
All of the activities in totality is enough for you to like feel like you're relatively comfortable living in New York.
Yep. And then some. I feel very comfortable.
In terms of just sheer fun and enjoyment of opportunities and gigs that you play, what are the most enjoyable venues to play in New York? Where if somebody who's listening to this is going to be a tourist, like where are the great places to go to have an incredible experience? Yeah,
I mean, I love a jazz club just because you can really see people up close and really feel their energy. I've done arena tours where the audience is like way the hell over there, and that's really tough. That's a whole other thing, that can feel cool, but it's not the same feeling as being, 10 feet away from a master musician, So I think any small jazz club is a really special experience. If people are coming to New York, Village Vanguard is incredible, very historic club that's underground in a basement. And everyone's played there. John Coltrane played there and Miles played there. And that's really fun. I love Smalls and Mesro. They're across from the street from each other. And Mesro is really fun. It's like a bit more of it's not entirely a drumless club, but they'll have like smaller groups there, a lot of trios and things like that. So that's a really nice place to go hear music. What else? Smoke Jazz Club is beautiful. That's uptown. They're on like 105th and Broadway. They just renovated and it's a beautiful club. And I love playing at Dizzy's at Jazz Lincoln Center. That's where I fell in love with swing music. So that's a great room to play, and the acoustics in there are beautiful, and you'll see all of Columbus Circle. But yeah, there's also in Brooklyn, there's Ornithology.
Yes.
There's a great club. I don't know if you've been there, but that's awesome. You can, talk about being up close and personal with the musicians. You'll be like right there, which is really fun. But yeah, anywhere where it feels like we can have some interaction with the audience. And I'm always interested in creating that feeling in bigger spaces too. Like when I play Performing Arts Center, I love getting the audience involved and just making it as cozy as possible in a bigger space. I think it's like from the experience of playing jazz clubs, that's kind of my blueprint of how do we present this music.
Have you ever considered leaving New York? And I know you haven't yet, so I assume maybe it's never been close, but I'd love to hear about what has kept you here. That's kind of two questions in one, but were you ever close to exiting New York and going somewhere else?
I don't think so. I think I was pre-COVID. I was working a lot and playing a lot. But I didn't feel as connected to my friends because I was just really busy and just running around and playing all the time. And so I don't know if I really felt like I belonged here. And then weirdly enough, I know that COVID was often like a very isolating time for people. For me, it was a very connective time because I had friends that were neighbors and that I really got to know better. And I actually had time because there was no work, which was a double-edged sword for sure. But I actually had time to spend time with people. So that really made me feel like I, on a human level, have people here and have a community and, the people that I really enjoy to spend time with outside of playing music, you know? Musically, I mean, I've only been an adult in New York, right? I moved here when I was 18. So it's hard to imagine because this is where I've built my entire career. This is where I play. This is where all my friends are. My family's here also. I live in a building my grandparents are the landlords. So they're on the 4th floor. Oma and Opa are on the 4th floor and my husband and I are on the 2nd floor. So it's hard to imagine leaving at this point. I think pre-COVID, I maybe flirted with the idea just because I didn't feel as sturdy here. But now I feel like I've built a community and I feel very lucky. And this has been a recent realization that I was on the road for maybe 6 months out of the year for many years on tour with different groups, which was a wonderful experience and like really, really special. And I realized that in that you think, why do I live in New York? Right? I'm not even here. But I realized that like I can actually stay in New York and have a really full schedule of gigs and playing opportunities and like sleep in my own bed. Whereas if I lived somewhere else, but I could only gig when I tour, that would be a very different life experience, if that makes sense. So I love living here because I can be home like with my family and still work at night and make a living that way. And there's so much cool music happening here and so many wonderful people to play with and opportunities. So that's been a recent realization of like, oh yeah, like this is a really like, again, sounds really obvious, but that I actually don't have to be on the road to make this thing happen. And of course I love to be on the road for a time, but that's not necessary to play.
Outside of your family, outside of music and music opportunities, what else do you love about this place? What else has kept you here?
The food here is so good. I think it's a beautiful city. I'm just trying to think of, I just think that there's so much opportunity for people watching. It's really fun. So people talk shit about the subway, but I love the subway. I think it's so cool that you can just hop on and get anywhere you want to go. I love that it's kind of a beach town. If you go to the Rockaways, like it's kind of got everything. And if you have the time to take advantage of it, you know? So I've been really making an effort to take advantage of it whenever I can, because there were years where I wasn't, you know, and I think COVID was actually really helpful for that. I ride a bike a lot to get around and I just strap my horn on my back. And that has given me such a deeper appreciation for the city because I actually am seeing it as I am transporting myself from point A to point B, and see how everything kind of works, like how the neighborhoods are connected and how they change as you coast through. So that has really, like, I think getting a bike has been the biggest New York hack that I didn't know before. Yeah, I just love this place.
What's the best food? What are your favorite restaurants?
Well, there's an excellent pizza place near my place in Ridgewood called Pizzeria Panina. That's so good. Well, the pizza here is unbelievable. Scar's Pizza, also in the Lower East Side, is really, or it's in Chinatown, is really good. I love Deluxe Green Bow in Chinatown. Really excellent Chinese food. There's this place in Jackson Heights that I go for Indian food. I just love that there's these pockets of populations where like you can go eat their food. It's so cool. So yeah, in Jackson Heights there's a place called Angel something. I'll find the name of it. But yeah, I love that you don't have to spend a lot of money and you can just eat the most delicious stuff you've ever had.
The Mount Rushmore of trombone players. I don't know. You've mentioned some people that you
Such
really
a great
admire.
question. How many is was it 5? 4?
I think there are 4 in total. You
Four
can add,
presidents, okay.
whatever you'd like to add. But
Great.
who are, if somebody like myself who's a complete novice to this world, who are the people I need to go listen to?
Okay. My Mount Rushmore, which people can debate me, of jazz trombone or just trombone in general?
Trombone in general.
Okay. Very good. Okay. J.J. Johnson, Fred Wesley, who played with James Brown, Slide Hampton, and then because I'm really falling in love with her music, Mariel Bildsten. Those are my 4. I have so many more. It's hard to pick 4, but these days, those are my. And then like I wish I had 5 because if I had 5, I would say Curtis Fuller. Those are my 5. Yeah. So it's J.J. Johnson, Fred Wesley, Slide Hampton, Mariel Bildsten, Curtis Fuller.
Is there a can't miss jazz band or living trombone player in New York you have to recommend that you think is a can't miss opportunity?
Steve Davis is really, really incredible and plays at Smoke pretty often. He is maybe the closest thing to JJ these days. And really in that tradition. And it's just a beautiful trombone player. There's so many, actually. It's a really cool time for trombone. So I have a mentor named Frank Lacey who has taught me so much. And he has mentioned several times that like this era is the best for trombone that he's ever been around. And he's been in New York a long time. He's like, there's just so many great players. So you can't go wrong.
Last question I'd love to ask.
Yeah.
And I usually close with this question, but when you think of the word success, how do you think of that word as it applies to your life, your career? If we're talking in 2 or 3 years or projecting 2 or 3 years in the future, what does a successful next few years look like for you?
As you were asking the question, the first thing that popped into my head was love, which is kind of hippy-dippy. But success to me in my life just looks like I have a lot of love around me, and that I love the people around me, and that they love me back, and that we create things that we love. That is the most important thing to me, is to create beautiful music with people that I really care about and admire, and that I feel a lot of love for. So I think that's kind of how I would quantify. It's hard to quantify that, but that's the closest thing that I have to kind of point to. And there's a lot of technical stuff that gets us there, but I think that's the overarching theme that I get to experience, and that I like want to continue experiencing and like deepen that thing.
And professionally, is it at this point kind of more of the same? Keeping what seems like a very interesting and amazing and opportunistic life, just maintaining that.
A lot of it is maintaining it. A lot of it is refining it too. Like I'm, as a band leader, I'm interested in pursuing more opportunities for the band. We just went to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania this past weekend and did a really cool thing where on Saturday we worked with the students at the college and had like a workshop, and I brought my septet, which is my band. It's 7 of us. And so usually when I go to a college, it's just me, which is a lot of fun. But when I bring the whole band, then every instrument that's represented in the college program gets served, if that makes sense. And so we were able to get a lot more specific, which was really, really cool. So we did that on Saturday, and then on Sunday we did a concert, and I also was like a special guest with their big band. That sort of thing where this kind of marriage of education plus performance is very appealing to me. That's the sort of stuff that like, that's what I'm all about, is both of those things. So being able to bring my band into my educational stuff really is super exciting to me. So to be able to do both is the sort of refinement that I'm talking about, like just doing more of that. Being able to play internationally, I would love to bring, I've done a little bit of that with my band, but I would just love to do that more. So yes, it's maintaining and like leveling up, right? Like I want to play with all sorts of different bands over the years, and be able to bring my band and do different opportunities and keep learning and keep exploring. And, each situation that I'm in as a band leader and as a side person, I learn so much. So it's just like, let's just keep learning and keep growing this thing.
Growing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.